Most Rise of Berk players are wasting thousands of runes without even realizing it. Some of these mistakes seem completely harmless at first, but over time they can slow down your progress by weeks or even months. Today, I'll show you 50 mistakes that almost every Rise of Berk player makes. We'll start with the obvious ones, but don't skip ahead, because the later mistakes are the ones that even experienced players still get wrong. Let's get started. The first mistake is spending runes just to speed things up. It always feels tempting. You're only missing another 10 minutes on a building, your dragon is almost finished training, or Toothless is about to return from an exploration. So you spend a few runes. The problem is that these small purchases slowly drain your entire rune balance. Instead, try to think of runes as an investment rather than a shortcut. Spending them on permanent upgrades is almost always a much better decision than saving a few minutes. Another mistake is trying to level every single dragon. A lot of players assume that every dragon should stay around the same level, but in reality, not every dragon deserves your resources. Some dragons are incredible resource collectors, others are useful in Brawl, and some are mainly collection pieces. Before spending fish or wood, ask yourself one simple question: will this dragon actually help my account? If the answer is no, those resources are usually better spent somewhere else. One of the biggest mistakes you can make is letting Toothless do absolutely nothing. Every minute that Toothless is sitting in Berk is a minute where you're not searching for dragons, collecting rewards, or making progress. Whenever you log into the game, the first thing you should check isn't your resources, it's Toothless. If he isn't doing something useful, send him out immediately. A surprisingly common mistake is spending your Odin coins as soon as you have enough for a pack. It feels rewarding in the moment, but patience usually pays off. Special pack rotations and limited time offers can provide much better value than buying the first thing that's available. Unless there's something you really need right now, saving your Odin coins is almost always the smarter choice. Another mistake that slows down a lot of players is ignoring the daily duties. They don't look very exciting. The rewards aren't massive, but that's exactly why so many players underestimate them. Completing your daily duties every day adds up over weeks and months, giving you a steady flow of resources, packs, and other rewards that make a real difference over time. Many players also waste huge amounts of resources by upgrading dragons simply because they look cool. And honestly, we've all done it. But Rise of Berk rewards efficiency far more than appearance. A dragon that gathers twice as many resources is almost always more valuable than one that just has a cooler design. Another mistake is opening every single card pack the moment you receive it. Sometimes that's perfectly fine, but during certain events or special quests, keeping a few packs unopened can actually be much more rewarding. It's always worth checking whether an event is coming up before opening everything immediately. A mistake that almost every new player makes is upgrading their storage far too late. Everything feels fine until suddenly your fish or wood is completely full. Now your dragons stop collecting efficiently, and you're forced to spend resources just to make space. Keeping your storage one step ahead of your production is much more efficient than constantly running into capacity limits. Here another one that costs players far more progress than they realize. A lot of people spend all of their resources the moment they earn them. Fish comes in, it's gone. Wood comes in, it's gone. Runes come in, also gone. The strongest players don't think like that. They save resources for important upgrades, limited time events, and opportunities that are actually worth investing in. Planning ahead is one of the biggest differences between an average account and an advanced one. And finally, probably the biggest beginner mistake of them all, playing without any long-term plan. Most players only think about what they can do today. The best players think about what they want their account to look like a month from now. Every upgrade, every rune, and every decision should move you closer to that goal. Because Rise of Berk isn't a game that rewards impatience. It's a game that rewards smart decisions over time. If you've already learned something new, I'd really appreciate it if you left a like on the video. And if you want to be featured in my next upload, leave a comment below. I always pick a few of my favorite comments to shout out in the next video. Now let's move on to the mistakes that waste the most runes. The next mistakes aren't about losing a few resources. They're about wasting the most valuable currency in the entire game. Runes. Most players don't lose thousands of runes in one day. They lose a few here, a few there, and before they realize it, months of progress are gone. Let's start with one of the biggest mistakes: buying dragons the moment they appear in the shop. Just because a dragon is available doesn't mean it's worth your runes. Many dragons eventually return through events, special offers, or other opportunities. Unless that dragon has a very specific purpose for your account, spending a huge amount of runes on impulse is rarely the best decision. Patience almost always wins. Another mistake is spending runes before checking if a sale is active. Rise of Berk regularly offers discounts on certain upgrades and features. Waiting for one of these sales can save you hundreds, sometimes even thousands of runes over time. A few days of patience can make a surprisingly big difference. A lot of players also underestimate permanent upgrades. Whenever you spend runes, ask yourself one simple question. Will this still help my account 6 months from now? If the answer is yes, it's probably a good investment. If the answer is no, think twice before spending those runes. One mistake I see all the time is buying convenience instead of progression. Extra resources for today, a faster building, a quicker upgrade. Those things feel nice in the moment, but they disappear almost instantly. Permanent upgrades continue helping your account every single day. That's where your runes create the most value. Here, another mistake that's easy to avoid. Spending your runes the moment you finally save them. Many players decide they want to save 1,000 runes. They finally reach that goal and immediately spend every single one. Instead, think beyond your first milestone. Sometimes the smartest decision is simply not spending anything yet. Having a healthy rune reserve gives you flexibility whenever an amazing offer or limited time event appears. Another expensive mistake is ignoring limited time opportunities. Some events offer rewards that are significantly better than what you can normally buy. If you've already spent all your runes the day before, you might miss one of the best value opportunities of the entire month. Saving runes before major updates or events is a habit that separates experienced players from everyone else. Something else that many players overlook is comparing value. Before spending runes, compare different options. Ask yourself, what gives me the biggest long-term benefit for the same amount of runes? The most expensive option isn't always the best one, and the cheapest option isn't always the smartest one either. Learning to compare value instead of price is one of the biggest mindset changes you can make. Here's another mistake: thinking that earning more runes is more important than protecting the runes you already have. Of course, it's great to collect more runes, but avoiding unnecessary spending is often even more powerful. Saving 500 runes has exactly the same effect as earning 500 runes. The difference is that saving them is usually much easier. And finally, probably the biggest rune mistake of all: never having a rune strategy. The strongest players don't spend runes randomly. They already know exactly what their next purchase will be long before they have enough runes. Every rune has a purpose. Every purchase has a reason. And because of that, almost nothing gets wasted. Now that we've covered the biggest rune mistakes, let's move on to something completely different, because the next section isn't about currency anymore. It's about resource management, and that's where a lot of players unknowingly slow down their entire account. Now that we've covered runes, let's talk about something that almost every player struggles with at some point: resources. Because no matter how many dragons you own, if you can't manage your fish, wood and iron efficiently, your progress will always be slower than it needs to be. One of the biggest mistakes players make is treating every resource dragon the same. Not all dragons are equally valuable. Some dragons collect significantly more resources than others, while some simply aren't worth investing in anymore. Instead of spreading your upgrades across dozens of average dragons, focus on the ones that actually carry your economy. A few great collectors will always outperform a large group of mediocre ones. Another mistake is upgrading dragons before upgrading the economy that supports them. Every new level costs more fish. Every upgrade requires more wood. If your production can't keep up, your dragons end up waiting because you simply can't afford the next upgrade. Strong resource production should always come before expensive investments. A lot of players also ignore collection times. Logging in for just a few minutes without collecting your resources means your best dragons might spend hours sitting at their collection limit. During that time, they're producing absolutely nothing. Even if you only have a minute to play, collecting your resources before logging off is almost always worth it. Here's another mistake that slows players down without them even noticing: using your strongest collectors for jobs that don't actually need them. Some dragons are incredibly efficient at gathering resources. Others are much better suited for exploration or specific activities. Whenever possible, let your best collectors do what they do best. Your entire economy becomes stronger over time. Another thing many players don't think about is balancing fish and wood. It's easy to focus only on whichever resource you're currently missing, but sooner or later, that creates another bottleneck. Instead of constantly fixing shortages, try to grow both resources together. A balanced economy is much easier to maintain than one that's always chasing the next problem. One mistake I see surprisingly often is upgrading because resources are available, not because an upgrade is actually needed. Just because you can afford something doesn't automatically mean you should buy it. Sometimes the smartest decision is waiting until you know exactly where those resources create the biggest impact. Patience doesn't only apply to runes, it also applies to fish and wood. Here's something that separates experienced players from beginners. Experienced players think in efficiency, beginners think in quantity. Having more dragons doesn't automatically mean earning more resources. What really matters is how efficiently those dragons perform. Sometimes upgrading one excellent collector is worth far more than upgrading 5 average ones. Another common mistake is forgetting that your economy should support your future progress, not just today's progress. Every upgrade should make the next upgrade easier. Every investment should increase your production. If an upgrade doesn't improve your account in the long run, it's probably not your highest priority. And finally, probably the biggest economy mistake in the entire game: playing without priorities. When everything feels important, nothing actually is. Before you spend any fish or wood, decide exactly what your current goal is. Maybe you're preparing for a building upgrade. Maybe you're training a specific. Maybe you're unlocking something new. Whatever it is, focus on one objective at a time, because the fastest growing accounts aren't the ones with the most resources. They're the ones that spend those resources with a clear purpose. Now we've covered beginner mistakes, rune management, and resource management. But the next section is where things get really interesting, because these aren't mistakes that cost you resources. They're mistakes that happen because most players don't fully understand how some of Rise of Berk's mechanics actually work, and fixing just one of them can completely change the way you play the game. Now we've reached the part where even experienced players start making mistakes, because these aren't beginner mistakes anymore. They're mistakes that happen because the game never really explains certain mechanics, and if you misunderstand them, you can slow down your progress without even realizing it. Let's continue. One of the biggest mistakes is assuming that rarity automatically means a dragon is better. It sounds logical. If a dragon is harder to get, it should be stronger, right? Not always. Some low-rarity dragons perform surprisingly well in specific situations, while some rare dragons simply aren't worth prioritizing. Never judge a dragon by its rarity alone. Always look at what it actually does for your account. Another mistake is treating every event the same. Many players try to complete every single event they see, but not every event offers the same value. Some are definitely worth your time. Others can safely be skipped if you're trying to progress as efficiently as possible. Learning which events deserve your attention is an important skill. Here's something a lot of players overlook. They unlock new features, but never fully learn how they work, whether it's a new building, a new activity, or another progression system. Take a few minutes to understand it before using it. A small amount of knowledge can save you weeks of inefficient decisions later. Another mistake is copying another player's strategy without asking one simple question: does this strategy actually fit my account? A late-game player and a beginner don't need the same priorities. Just because something works for somebody else doesn't automatically mean it's the best option for you. Always adapt advice to your own progress. Here another mistake that's surprisingly common: ignoring game updates. Even small balance changes can completely change which dragons, mechanics, or strategies are the strongest. If you're still using advice from several years ago, there's a good chance some of it simply isn't true anymore. Keeping up with updates gives you an advantage that many players completely ignore. Another mistake is assuming that faster always means better. Sometimes players rush through progression as quickly as possible. Unlocking new things feels exciting, but if your account isn't actually ready for the next stage, you often end up struggling much more than necessary. Steady progress usually beats rushed progress. Here's something that separates experienced players from everyone else. They pay attention. Whenever something unusual happens, a special reward, a different event, an unexpected mechanic, they notice it. The more you observe the game, the easier it becomes to recognize opportunities that other players completely miss. Another mistake is ignoring information from the community. Rise of Berk has an incredibly dedicated player base. Players constantly test strategies, compare dragons, and share useful discoveries. You don't need to copy everything you see, but staying connected to the community often helps you avoid mistakes that somebody else has already figured out. Here, another one. Thinking that there's only one correct way to play the game. There is. Some players focus on collections, others enjoy brawl, some love collecting dragons, others care mostly about efficiency. The best strategy is the one that helps you enjoy the game while still making consistent progress. And finally, probably the biggest hidden mistake on this list, playing on autopilot, logging in, collecting resources, starting another upgrade, logging out. Without ever asking yourself whether today's decisions actually move your account forward. The strongest players don't just play more, they think more. Every login has a purpose, every decision has a reason. And over time, that's exactly what separates an average account from an exceptional one. Now there's only one section left. These aren't small mistakes. They're the mistakes that can slow down your account for months, sometimes without players ever realizing why. Let's finish this list with the 10 most important mistakes every serious Rise of Berk player should avoid. There's only one section left. If you've made it this far, you're already ahead of most players watching this video. The final mistakes aren't necessarily the most common ones. They're the ones that quietly slow down your account over weeks, months, or even years. Let's finish this list. One of the biggest mistakes experienced players make is chasing everything at once. Every new dragon, every event, every collection, every reward. The problem is your resources are limited. The players who progress the fastest don't try to do everything. They decide what's actually important and ignore the rest. Trying to complete everything usually means completing nothing efficiently. Another mistake is treating every update like an emergency. A new feature gets released, everyone starts rushing towards it, and players immediately spend all of their saved resources. Instead of reacting instantly, take a step back, read the update, understand the mechanics. Sometimes the best strategy isn't being first, it's making the smartest decision. Here, another mistake that holds players back far longer than they realize. Comparing your account to somebody who's been playing for years. It's easy to look at another player's collection and think you're falling behind, but every account has a different history, different dragons, different luck, different priorities. The only account you should compare yourself to is your own account from last month. Progress is what matters, not comparison. A surprisingly common mistake is forgetting why certain dragons became valuable in the first place. Just because a dragon was considered amazing years ago doesn't automatically mean it's still the best choice today. The game changes, new dragons arrive, balance changes happen, strategies evolve. Always question old advice, even if everybody repeats it. Here's something that almost nobody talks about: burnout. Some players try to optimize absolutely everything, every timer, every collection, every event, every single day. Eventually, they stop enjoying the game completely. Rise of Berk is a marathon, not a sprint. Playing consistently for months will always beat playing perfectly for 1 week. Another mistake is refusing to change your strategy. Many players continue doing the same routines simply because it's what they've always done. But every account reaches a point where its priorities change. What helped you grow early on may actually slow you down later. The best players are constantly adapting, not constantly repeating. Here, another hidden mistake: thinking that expensive automatically means valuable. Some of the best decisions in Rise of Berk cost almost nothing. Some of the worst decisions cost thousands. Price and value are not the same thing. Always think about what you're actually getting in return. One mistake that separates good players from great players is making emotional decisions. You finally save a huge amount of resources, then you see something exciting. Without thinking, you buy it. A few days later, you realize you needed those resources somewhere else. The strongest players almost never make decisions in the moment. They already know exactly what they're saving for before the opportunity appears. Here's the second to last mistake: thinking you've learned everything. Rise of Berk has been updated for years. New mechanics appear, old strategies stop working, new discoveries are constantly being made by the community. The moment you stop learning, your progress starts slowing down. And finally, the biggest mistake in Rise of Berk: thinking that success comes from luck. Of course, luck matters. Some players get better rewards. Some players unlock dragons earlier, that's true, but over hundreds of days, luck becomes less important. Consistency wins, planning wins, patience wins. The players with the strongest accounts aren't usually the luckiest players. They're the ones who make good decisions over and over again. If you manage to avoid even half of the mistakes in this video, you're already ahead of most Rise of Berk players. But if you really want to maximize your progress, I've made complete guides covering topics like rune farming, hidden mechanics, and beginner strategies. One of those videos is on your screen right now, and I highly recommend watching it next because it goes much deeper than I could in this video. If you enjoyed this one, don't forget to subscribe, and if I missed one of your Favcrutter mistakes, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.